Okay. This should be a fun video. Let's talk about some hardcore BS that people believe in that is absolute hogwash, nonsense, pixie dust, unicorns and leprechaun level, like religious cult sort of nonsense when it comes to photography. This is in no particular order. I think I've got 8 here. Now, part of this is actually a fault from camera manufacturers. If you read about ISO, it'll actually use the word sensitivity. But it is an undeniable hardcore fact that ISO does not have anything to do with sensitivity. ISO is applied gain. I don't care if you want to say ISO or ISO. I grew up saying ISO, and actually the committee itself says both pronunciations are correct. None of that means a damn. The point is that ISO is not gain, native gain, okay? It is not sensitivity, and it is not exposure, okay? Exposure is one thing and one thing only. Gain and time. Gain occurs at the aperture, and it occurs at the photo sites. The technology, including the micro lenses, the pixel pitch of the sensor, those are your 2 levels of gain. Native gain, meaning true gain, not applied gain, because I'm a ham radio operator, because there's a little knob that's not volume, but it's called gain. And that doesn't mean you're getting a better signal. It means you're actually ramping up the signal, and the volume is a separate knob, if you want an analogy. So ISO is not gain, it's not sensitivity, and it is not exposure. What ISO lets you do, since it is applied gain, is let you tweak exposure. But ISO is not gain, nor sensitivity, nor exposure. People want to fight with me about this, but they're flat out wrong. And, okay, if you understand that, every camera works the same way. Exposure is gain and time, shutter speed. Gain is aperture, sensor technology, including micro lenses and pixel pitch. Also the efficiency of that. The efficiency of the lens also. That's actually another level of gain. I mean, you could have a 50mm f1.4 by one company, a 50mm f1.4 by another company. One could have twice as many elements, and its true t-stop is transmissive power, so far as luminal density over a period of time would be different. Okay, but that's the point for another. So that's hogwash number 1 that people believe in. That's absolutely not true. Something else that I fight all the time, including like 2 people today, is that full frame sensors, they think the full frame sensors gather more light per exposure. They don't. This is true, absolute, unadulterated hogwash, BS, and pixie dust. Okay? If this is a full frame sensor, okay, and we have a crop sensor here, okay, if all of a sudden I make this a full frame sensor, I have the exact same lens, the exact same exposure, exact same shutter speed between the DX and the crop lens, DX and the crop sensor. The photo sites here that capture, I don't know, the little puppy dog here instead of the trees over here, this remains the same. This little photo site gets an exposure with a given gain over a given period of time. Exposure, excuse me, excuse me. Exposure doesn't have a damn thing to do with the size of the damn sensor. No, it does not. Exposure has nothing to do, excuse me. Exposure has nothing to do with the size of the sensor. Nothing. Nothing. There are some knuckle pusses on YouTube that are spreading this nonsense. It is the case that, not in all cases, but in most cases, currently anyway, things are going away from that. The full frame sensors have larger photo sites. Not all of them, but most of them do. So this is where the better gain over a period of time comes in. But it has nothing to do with the size of the damn sensor. It has to do with big old honking eyeballs. Photo sites. Okay, so that's hogwash number 2. Full frame sensors don't gather more. Well, sure it does. It's a bigger sensor. You know, it's gathering more light. You know, you got a bigger window. It's letting more light in. Yeah, but that's not how photography works. You know, this little bit of light coming here has no bearing on how big the damn window is. You know, you got a little puppy dog here, okay, and you got a small window here, and then you make the window bigger. The intensity coming off of that dog that's being reflected off of its fur, off of the sun, for example, is the same, whether it's a DX crop sensor, whether it's a full frame sensor, okay? Whew, damn. Here's another thing some other YouTubers have, some hogwash number 3. Nonsense. Depth of field changes when you crop a full frame lens on a DX body. Or also people believe that you shouldn't use... Nonsense. You shouldn't use a full frame sensor on a crop... This is a crop sensor camera. You shouldn't use a full frame sensor on a crop... BS. BS. Where do people... I know where people pick this up. There's a couple of YouTubers. There's actually a few YouTubers that say this. Has no basis in reality. Depth of... Here's the secret of lenses, and it's not a secret. See, the biggest secrets in the universe, at least here in the human world, are that the biggest secrets are not secrets. They're only secrets because of human stupidity. This lens is a full-frame lens. This lens, if I take the exact same shot, the same exposure, same shutter speed, blah, 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 this lens will dump the same light. I should say, it will crap out the same light out of this rear element regardless of whether there is a full-frame sensor underneath that or not. The depth of field does not change. However, the crop of the apparent or relative depth of field will appear different because you've taken the projection of the rear element from this to this, or vice versa. But the depth of field does not change. The depth of field that this lens tosses out at f1.8 is exactly the same, whether I toss it on a full-frame camera or a DX crop sensor camera. Irrefutable, undeniable. Anybody that wants to argue otherwise, bring it on! Here's something else that people have their tampons in a twist over. Lens compression. I've made a few videos about lens compression. People say, and this is where they're half right, but they're totally wrong. People say, well, lens compression doesn't matter since it's merely a distance or perspective. You know, you can take like the compression of a 300 millimeter and change your distance, i.e. your perspective, and it will change. Yeah, this is true, but you know, here is an undeniable fact. You are in a wedding chapel. You can't change. You got to stand in a certain spot. You know, okay, well, it's a matter of perspective. Yeah, but I can't move, damn it. I'm in a portrait studio, and I got 20 feet of working room. I can't move. I can't change my perspective. That means I need to choose the appropriate compression with the appropriate lens. I'm on a pier, and I'm taking a shot of a chick that's like 10 feet away. I can change my perspective and therefore change the compression. No, I can't. You know, she's standing by the railing, and I'm standing by the railing. We can't move, damn it. If I want the composition the same with the sunlight coming over her shoulder, you see, yes, you can change the compression of someone's face, for example, whether they look like they've got an anteater face or they've got a moon face, by changing the lens or changing your perspective by changing your distance. Here's the big secret. 9 times out of 10, if I want the perfect composition, I can't change my distance. I can't change my perspective because I am framing someone that way. I am in the wedding chapel. I can't move. I'm in the studio. I got maybe 3 or 4 feet of working distance. Can't do it. Sometimes you can. A lot of the time you cannot. So yes, compression is still important. Here's hogwash number 5. Full frame cameras are always better. Oh, they're not. I've said this many times, and it's like it doesn't make its way through people's heads. It's like, how many times do I have to say this? Ask a professional bird shooter that's using like a $13,000 lens why he or she is using a $500 Nikon D7100 or even a Canon equivalent. Because that little tiny DX crop sensor camera is incredibly high pixel pitch. Does it have as good a gain as the full frame photo sights of a full frame camera? No, it doesn't. But if you got enough exposure, you know, in bright daylight, you're taking a picture of a, you know, a speckled breasted woodpecker at 1,000 yards, it doesn't matter a damn bit. Because there is more translational information per square millimeter of that DX crop. See, this is what people don't understand. You know, full frame cameras are not always better, nor are they the appropriate choice. Yeah. I've spoken endlessly about the advantages of full-frame sensor cameras. Okay, there are advantages to DX crop sensor cameras, including the fact that you'll basically remove most of the vignetting when using full-frame lenses on DX crop sensor cameras. The fact that there's more information, because see, bird shooters, wildlife shooters, they often crop the piss out of their shots. See, this is a 20.8 megapixel sensor camera. Okay, but if it were scaled up to full frame, it would be a 47 megapixel camera. Meaning, while this is a low megapixel camera, relatively speaking, it is incredibly high if you want to talk about cropping a shot versus a Nikon D750 or a Nikon D810. Okay, you get that point? You get it, you get it, you get it. If I'm going to crop the piss out of a little birdie captured on this DX crop sensor image, there is more detail in the birdie on this sensor than there is on the D750, on the D810, blah, blah. You get it, you get it. Smaller sensor, but more information per square millimeter. Yeah, this is why a bird shooter with a $13,000 lens, for example, is using a cheap-ass little D7100 camera. Yeah. There we go. Here's something else. People, have this bug in their butt. Images come from sensors. No, they don't. They're captured there. They're processed and rendered post-sensor. AD converter, processor, SNR firmware. Okay? This is why a camera like this will blow the hell out of like my Nikon D3s. I love my D3s. They're not going anywhere. Those cameras are tanks. That camera got some big old honking owl-sized photo sights on it. But why does this camera with its 4.2 micrometer pixel pitch do so much better in low light out of camera? Why? It's the same thing people with cars know. I mean, you could have a gigantic engine that will produce less torque than a modern tiny little engine called it's a secret. It's called technology. Yeah, technology. So people don't get it. He's like, okay, if it's a bigger sensor and got bigger photo sites, it's got to be a cleaner image. No, it don't. No, it doesn't. No. That's a generalization. That's a truism, but it is not an accurate statement. That is why this camera with its teeny little photo sites will do a far better job in low light, not even to mention autofocus in low light, than the D700 or the D3. Period. Flat out, no argument. Period. Okay? The images don't come from sensors. They're captured there. But there is a lot of crud in every DSLR, of which the sensor is only one aspect. It's like, darn, man. I mean, darn. Whew. Here's something else. Let's go on. People don't understand this because Nikon is lying to you like a dog. I've made a video about this. Just because this says AFS. My Nikon lens says AFS. It means it's a silent wave motor. Yeah, well, Nikon lies to you like a dog. I've made a video about this. Just because it says it's a silent wave motor doesn't mean it's a true silent wave. You can look this up. There are two things that Nikon calls silent wave motor, and they are as different as a pug dog versus a German Shepherd. You know? Radically different. But Nikon calls the pug dog and the German Shepherd dogs. They're both dogs. Yeah, they kind of are, but you don't see people with, you don't see the police officers with pug dogs, do you? You see them with big-ass German Shepherds. There's two motors that Nikon calls it. Nikon is lying to you, boy. There's the true hubless silent wave motor that's in this really expensive lens, and this is an old lens too, by the way. And it is fast. Boom! And then there's the other sort of motor that ends what they call silent wave motor. It's a micro motor. It's basically a tiny little toy motor with plastic gears that drive the motor. And that is slower. I just got done making a video comparing this lens to the new 16-80, which is gear driven. This is a true hubless, true silent wave ring motor. Ring motor versus the really expensive toy cars. They have this tiny little micro motor and these little gears that drive. That is what's in the cheaper thing that Nikon calls silent wave. Now, Nikon calls both of these things silent wave, but that does not mean that they're the same. Why is this important? A, quality. Because the silent, hubless ring motor basically doesn't break. It's really nothing to break. And B, a true silent wave ring motor is faster autofocus. Faster by far. So when you think that you've got a silent wave motor in your Nikon lens, you may do and you may not. It's about half and half. So Nikon is lying to you, boy. And that's a fact, Jack. That's something people generally don't know. Nikon has lied to you. Well, they haven't lied to you. They're just calling two radically different things the same thing. And to me, I call that being dishonest. You decide what it is, whether it's dishonest or, oh, we've nuanced it, they're both dogs. It's like, yeah, but there's no comparing a German Shepherd to a pug dog, is there? You know, they're two radically different creatures. So, yeah, but they're both dogs. That's not my point. My point versus, yeah. Okay, I think I made myself clear. If you like this funny little video, yet accurate video, you can send me a buck or two, or go tell me to jump off a cliff, or, you know, tell me to run naked into a vat of razor blades and salt. You know, whatever turns you on, whatever tickles your pickle. Let me know, okay? Bye.